That's my assumption. I'm double checking it,
Okay.
but let's assume we are. How
Never
you
assume.
doing?
I'm good. I've got a kitty cat here, as always.
Oh, well,
Oh, and over here too.
yeah. Courtney,
Hmm.
stop plugging the cat. The cat, the
Well,
cat, Courtney, cannot be a
you can't.
co-host. The cat cannot be a guest.
I can't have,
No, no.
it's a package deal, man.
No.
They're always going to be part of the stream. Yeah, see, she
Yeah,
wants
okay,
to be
okay.
in it.
Have your agent call my agent. We'll sort it out. Fine. Your cat can get like
Mhm.
we'll come up with some cat and time thing. I don't know what it'll be, but we'll give it. We'll
Ooh,
do. Oh God, I shouldn't have said that. That was really stupid of me. I
I
should
like
not have
it.
gone there. I should not have gone there.
Oh
Oh my
no.
God. Oh my God. Well, welcome everybody. Um, thank you all
Welcome
for
back.
thank you. It's nice to be
My
back.
goodness.
Yeah, I'm still very limited. I think this is one show a week for now is going to be okay. I'm either basically doing something reasonably within my wheelhouse or it's pre-recorded. But I'm doing better. So thank you. And thank you guys. You guys did a spectacular job in my absence. A little bit too good, I think.
Oh.
I did, by the way, catch a stream where certain co-hosts were talking about taking over the entire. You wouldn't happen to
What?
know anything about. That's what I thought.
I don't
Um,
know.
yeah, that's what I get for taking sick time. Um,
Oh.
Thank you all for joining us. We do apologize again for the technical difficulties, and I apologize for apologizing again. I'm having my own technical difficulties. We do have a few things. So we've got coming up, we've got a Stitch in Time coming, and I think it's Susan Turpin on Stitch in Time on Friday. I think so. She's going to have a marvelous time. We're looking forward to that. I will say this. Yeah, Stitch, we have a lot of people watching this show who don't watch Stitch. That is a mistake.
Mm.
He is good. And the people who've seen him on the after show, people who've seen him on this show, Mikey is good. He is well worth watching. He's a lot of fun. So I think people should go check out Stitch in Time. It'll be Thursday, I think it's 8 p.m. Eastern. It's on the calendar. The calendar's in a little box now on your left. We've got a new calendar, which I can't wait for people to see. But at any rate, so Stitch in Time. Then next week we have got Ocean. He will be on to discuss polytheism and to discuss. I think that's the topic. We actually have. We're going to have him on twice, and which one we do first? I think this one's going to be on polytheism and his own beliefs and
Ooh.
where they come from. Yeah, there is a rich culture there, and I'm looking forward
Of
to sort
course.
of examining that. Yeah. So I think that's going to be fun. We're going to have him on again at some point to discuss anti-theism, atheists, sort of the sort of maybe over aggression, how he sort of deals with, and also heathens have suffered a lot at Christianity too. It's not just atheists,
Mm.
and so he's got some views on that. So we're looking forward to. But I think it's going to be polytheism. I almost said polyamory. I will try not to confuse that
Ooh,
with ocean.
that is a
Um,
big difference.
Yeah, that is a big difference.
Mm.
We could have some mistakes there, so I will try to
You
avoid that.
can you can be both, but
Yeah,
it's not mutually
you
exclusive, but it
can.
can be.
Would that be a poly? Okay, so
A
polytheamorous.
polyamorous polytheist. That's so much fun to
That
say.
beats mine. That's good.
You're just
That's really good.
you're just
That's good. No,
dynamic
my
all the way around.
yeah,
I like
yeah.
it.
Wow,
I
yeah.
like
That's
it.
pretty. Yeah. My pick a
Mhm.
god, pick a person. You're good. Okay.
Mhm.
Um. So, we'll be having him on, and then as we discussed earlier, uh, we will be having an interview with Mr. Kyle Curtis. He has agreed to an interview. We'll also be reaching out to Mr. Steve
Mm.
McRae, and we're going to have a very
Mm.
frank discussion about the differences between the two and what happened. Well, this is going to be part of sort of a
Mm.
larger discussion in general about a lot of things that happen on YouTube. Some of it's legal matters. We have in the past discussed YouTube's penchant for not giving people legal recourse for having deliberately gray areas and rules so that they can, you don't even know if you violated those rules. And they're also
Mm.
their tendency now really towards kid content. The top YouTube content creators, like people say, "Oh, you do content on YouTube. Do you make any money at it?" Well, maybe a little, but I don't make like 8-year-old money. 8-year-olds on YouTube are like killing it. Uh, the top number one YouTube content creator is 8 years old, and she makes 100. She made 114 million last year on YouTube. Yeah, that's the
What?
appropriate response. That is the appropriate response. I don't make that much money.
Doing what?
Um, with her, it's actually just her talking about her views on life and going on play dates and hanging with her dad. The second one is started one of the first unboxing videos. He comes in at I think 72 million last year just unboxing. That's all he does.
Yeah.
He's to be fair, he's a lot older. He's 9.5, and so that's what he brings in. So I told my kids, I was like, my kids are like,
Oh God.
yeah, I know, my kids are. I finally decided I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't know why I'm doing this. My 9-year-old is
Well, it's
nine
not,
years old. She's twice as old. She's 2 years older than the top YouTube. She needs to be working. She needs to be working.
it's not a competition, Nick.
Excuse me.
Oh no.
So
I
yeah,
set
well,
him
it's not
off.
about a competition. I want to. Yeah, you did. Yeah, sure. It's not a competition. I just want to be able to sit play video games. Actually, I could probably make more money if I did, because the number 3 spot is by 4 guys
Yeah.
who play Fortnite and
Yeah.
Roblox and Minecraft all day, and they made 60
Mm.
some odd million. I'm doing the
Well, there
wrong thing.
is
I thought people want
with
to
the
talk.
with the unboxing thing, that makes a lot of sense because if you already are someone that, I mean, so it depends on what they're unboxing. Are they unboxing items for the show that they buy, or are they unboxing things that fans send in? Because that makes a lot of
Presents.
sense because there's a lot of people that become famous on YouTube and then their major thing after that is just having discussions with people and showcasing their audience on their show with things that they send them and reading out letters by them with their permission and things like that. So because of that, it makes the viewers much more engaged, and that becomes much more interesting for the viewers that they already have. It makes them very consistent because if they send something in, they're definitely going to tune in to see if their thing is presented on the show. Um,
Oh,
and it makes
I
more people send things and more people watch.
You wish. No, this is an 8-year-old who it's a screenshot of his hands, and he's just opening presents. He doesn't say anything. There's nothing but music. Music is
Whoa.
playing in the background. It's 8 hours of him opening presents. That's all. They're called unboxing videos. That's all they do. There's music, there's no talk. That's it.
But
So, and
presents
by the
from
way,
where? Oh, sorry.
they don't
We're going to go
they
off
they
onto a
don't
major
say.
tangent with that. Never mind.
Yeah, that's what.
That's
But
really
that
strange.
was my daughter's favorite. Yeah, it's bizarre.
Yeah.
So we're we're
I've
we're
never heard
we're,
of
we're
that.
doing yeah we're doing a lot on different YouTube subjects, and I think we're
Yeah.
gonna talk. We're gonna keep in
Yeah.
that theme tonight, which
Well,
I'm looking forward to.
yeah. Well, one thing that I find interesting, there is a YouTube channel that's extremely successful, has lots and lots of subscribers, but it's only a woman who's in medical school sitting down with a camera and pointed at her studying for her exams for 2 hours, and
I'm
it's
good.
called Study With Me, and it's a thing where she'll do these Pomodoro timers, which is like a study technique for medical students, and I use it for my ADHD kids with my with what I do. But it's really helpful as a tool to kind of stay on task and take breaks and make sure you're not burning yourself out. But the point is that she puts this timer at the bottom of the screen, and you do Pomodoros with her. You do these study sessions of 25-minute timed things, and it's just really interesting. It's like 2 hours every video. I looked at her channel; all of them are exactly the same. It's just watching her study in silence or with music playing, and like that's the whole thing. And she's got thousands of subscribers, and it's just nuts. I'm like, what is going on?
I'm
Oh.
doing something wrong. All right. So, um, all right. Well, we do have one piece of breaking news that happened just before this started. So I want to hit that, and then I want to get on to the topic. But this is Donald Trump has announced that he is cutting all funding to the World Health Organization. All funding to the World Health Organization. He is doing so because he believes they botched the COVID-19 response. The United States is, like all members of the World Health Organization, that's once again the appropriate response. Like all members of the World Health Organization, the United States is required to put in a certain amount of money. The U.S. puts in 23% of their budget from the required funding. 23% comes from the United States at 49 billion. Sorry, 49 million. $49 million, making up 20%, 24% of their budget from member states. But 80% of their budget is from volunteers. This includes people, corporations, charitable foundations, and countries. The largest contributor is the United States, making up roughly 400 to 500 million of the World Health Organization's budget. He is canceling all of it. Right in the middle of this. The general consensus is that he is doing this because he wants to blame others for what is perceived to be his bungling of
Oh my
the
God.
COVID response. And he said he will not fund them until there has been an investigation into their handling of it. Now, in general, what you do is you have the investigation first and then do it. But he has found no specific complaints, nothing he says they bungled, except he doesn't like how friendly they were with China when this started and how easily they accepted China's data. There is a little truth to that, but not very much, and he accepted their data even more. At any rate, that's it. It's a huge percentage of their budget, and he said no more until he gets answers. That happened just a couple minutes before we went live.
So, okay. So the thing that's really damaging about that, obviously, is access to healthcare. But the reason he's doing it is super obvious about making it about him, which is what he always does. But it's about trying to shift the blame for his base. It's the election. And like, what? Okay.
Yep.
We
All
need
right.
to,
So, anyways, I,
jeez.
I, why is it every time I come on, I have nothing but really terrible stuff to say? So
It's
with
why
that,
we love you, Nick.
oh, so you're crazy too. So thank you. What are we doing today?
We are talking about the unique experience that is being a female YouTuber, and all of the fun things that go along with that. I have worked with Shannon Q before on Women of Deconversion, and she also did an entire panel with some other women on that topic of the experience of the level of nasty comments, the level of really strange activity from fans or haters of the shows, and just the way that you're treated very differently on YouTube, in the specifically the atheist YouTube community. But I think it's also something that that happens across the board with women versus men on YouTube. That there's more of a focus on image and on making like sexual comments and things like that, much more than what male YouTubers experienced. And I've learned from Shannon a lot of things that are really scary about what goes along with that, and the especially the focus on not what you're saying, but how you say it and what you're wearing when you say it, and how provocative you are when you say it, and how bitchy you sound when you say it. It's a bunch of different things. So I would be very curious to bring Shannon right on out here and talk about it. I'm really excited.
All right.
Hi.
Shannon, how are you?
Hello.
Good. I'm good. And actually, I was. What's interesting is that I was a little self-conscious because I was incredibly busy about the fact that I wasn't able to make myself up before going out. But actually, I think it's ideal that on this stream, while we're discussing this, I have zero makeup on. This is just, what my face looks like. My hair is up in a ponytail right now because I was homeschooling my my little dude. So what is interesting is that I'm here now, and as Courtney was speaking beforehand, it was running through my head that one of the reasons that I was self-conscious about this is because a lot of people tie their image of me and whether or not I am or am not attractive into whether or not they are or are not going to listen to a message that I deliver. So that's something that I'm cognizant of every time, which maybe men don't necessarily have to be as cognizant of when they're going into these sorts of conversations. So it's actually ideal that I wasn't able to put makeup on today and be full pretty done up Shannon, and I just look like normal mom Shannon right now.
Yeah.
So hi, and thank you for having me here. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
So
and
I
also,
guess,
I'm still reeling from Donald Trump. Sorry, I'll get past it. But
I know.
What the
Yeah.
fucking
Do you have
hell?
any, before we get started on you, do you have any comments about that? About the breaking news?
I think that is it's demonstrably negligent right now. The World Health Organization is what all of us have to turn to in order to aggregate the information from all of the professionals in all of the countries. I mean, you can say whatever you want about them accepting the information from China. They may not have had any choice but to accept the information. It may not have been the best quality, but it may have been the best quality that's available to them, and they have to make decisions based on the best quality of information that's available to them. Unless if you can demonstrate that they didn't make the best decisions based on the information that was available to them, that's something that you should maybe wait until after. Is he redirecting that money to something that's going to help this global pandemic? Or is this just posturing so that his base with an election coming up is going to say, oh, well, it's not his fault. He can kick the can down the road to the World Health Organization and say, I didn't have the best information because it's their fault. I'm pulling money from them. It just seems like that he can't see the forest for the trees, or potentially he just doesn't care. And it's baffling to me. It's
It's scary.
utterly baffling to me. I don't understand it at all.
Yeah.
I know it's not the topic. I'm sorry, but you just threw that down beforehand. I was like,
I know.
I
know. Me too. I was like, what?
That's why I didn't actually tell her beforehand. I was like, we have breaking news. I'm going to do it. And she's just like, breaking news? No.
God.
I was like, when do we not? But it's sort of, that is one of the things we do on this. This is actually an educational show. It's a news educational op-ed, and we cover, and it's what we do during the, when Iran was shooting missiles into the green zone. We were reporting on it, and we're just up there, and it's like, my phone rings. I've had 2 hours of sleep. I was like, no, it's like breaking news. I was like, so this is what I signed up for because I'm crazy. Anyways,
kick it on down the street. Okay, so to start the topic, I think maybe just introducing you, what you do, Shannon. You do quite a lot, and so I'd like to start off with just that, like introducing our audience to who you are.
Oh, okay. So I'm Shannon Q. I have a YouTube channel called Shannon Q because I'm not incredibly creative, and I never thought anybody would ever subscribe to a YouTube channel that I had. I was slightly wrong about that because I've got close to 19,000-ish subscribers now on my channel, which is pretty cool. That's pretty awesome. And what my focus is on the channel is I focus on the intersection of psychology and faith, and I also advocate for having better versions of complex conversations about controversial and contentious subject matter. And so I have people who are diametrically opposed to me on to have better dialogues, or I have people on who generally speak towards subject matter that tends to be a bit more controversial or lean towards being something that people tend to escalate when they're discussing and attempt to have better conversations about that subject matter. And it seems to be something that people are interested in. I have a really engaged and wonderful audience, and I'm incredibly grateful for them. I'm also a huge proponent of mental health advocacy. So I'd like to advocate for people who either misrepresent or weaponize mental health as a pejorative in order to drive home points. Or people who exploit people who have mental health issues in order to profit. So I cover a lot of that. So I cover Christian counseling. I cover a lot of things. I'm also a frequent contributor to Apologia. I co-host The Line. I was previously a co-host on the Non Sequitur show. I used to host a show called Talking to You, or Let's Talk to You with Shannon Q on Steve McRae's channel. I hosted The Heathen Hour with Godless Cranium. I've co-hosted Talk Heathen. I've been to Faithless Volley. If you are an atheist who watches YouTube, there's a chance you may have seen me at some point down the line, because I go wherever, essentially. I just like having conversations and building communities. So yeah, that's a lot, I guess. That's enough of me talking about myself. Sorry, that's a lot, but that's kind of what I do.
Well,
if you're interested.
Yeah, you have a lot of things. Yeah.
So basically, you're a slacker.
Yes,
you know,
right. That's
you're
absolutely
lazy.
true.
You stay around the house all day. Yeah.
Yeah, with my,
Yeah.
I also have a 9-year-old and work full time, and now I'm homeschooling, so that's why
Oh,
I'm a
geez.
mess. But there's
Right.
alcohol, so I'm fine.
So, I guess if we want to start with maybe just your first introduction of the difference that you experience between female and non-female YouTubing. Because
that's hard.
I've heard you talk a lot about how different that is, and of course you aren't experiencing the other side yourself, but you and I both know that like the world of YouTubing, and especially atheist YouTubing, is predominantly male, and then there's a few women sprinkled here and there. So we get more the male experience in the atheist community for YouTubing and in general. So yeah, I guess, how is your experience different as a female YouTuber?
Well, I only have my experience to speak to, so I'm not sure that I can speak to how it's different, because my basis of comparison is there's nothing outside of me, aside from having conversations with other people. But I can tell you how other people have explained to me that it's different and what I experience. Pardon me. Sorry, I'm asthmatic. I don't have COVID. I'm in lockdown. So I can tell you, this is one of the things that I noticed almost immediately when I started a YouTube channel, and it's prevalent, and it continues, and it actually doesn't even have anything to do with sexual comments. That is something that's also prevalent, but this is one of the things that actually annoys me more. Is I frequently get comments, and I had the Messianic Manic on recently, who's a guy who I love him. He's great. He's a great channel. And when I had him on afterwards, I had a conversation with him, and I was like, do you ever get comments like this? Because I frequently get comments that say, why do you use such big words? Why are you trying to sound so smart? Why do you think that you're so smart? You think you're so much smarter than everybody. Why do you use such big words? Or why don't you just go back to having a makeup channel? You using big words like that is just an attempt to make people think that you're smarter than you are. Like, I get those daily. And I asked him, I'm like, because I know that he's somebody who has a fairly extensive vocabulary. He speaks philosophically, and so just by virtue of what he's engaging in, he's going to, his lexicon's going to be expansive just by virtue of what he's doing. And because I'm somebody who's educated in psychology and I speak a lot on academic topics, my lexicon is going to be expansive, just because in order to be able to speak concisely and succinctly towards what I'm addressing, it's very important that I use the appropriate terms so that I'm conveying my message adequately. So it's always struck me as odd that somebody would say that to me, because I felt as though I was utilizing language in a very precise manner in order to convey a message, and especially considering I studied communication. So why would somebody hold issue with me using the appropriate words? Because the criticism is never you're misusing words. It's why do you use such big words? So I asked him, I said, is this a criticism that you get all the time? And it up until that point, it had never hit me that it might be because I'm a girl and I'm punching out of my class using all them big vocabulary words that somebody may not actually like the idea that somebody that they see as maybe less than them, just by virtue of their existence, is utilizing language that they can't themselves understand necessarily unless they look it up. That might be a bit of a punch in the kidneys. So I asked him, and he was like, I've never, not once have I ever had that criticism. And I get it daily. And that snapped it into my consciousness that, oh, it's not just that sometimes people don't like hearing big words, especially when you're discussing big concepts. Like I discuss philosophical and psychological concepts frequently on my channel. If you're tuning into my channel and you don't expect to hear big words, that's confusing. And yeah, so that snapped that into my consciousness that, oh my gosh, people want me to portray myself as dumber than I am so that I can fit into the box of the conceptualization of what a woman like me is, so that I can make them more comfortable. And I'm not willing to do that. So that's something that I get quite frequently. I don't know if I just talked for a really long time, so I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine.
No,
I do it too.
The reason we have guests is to just sit there and let us talk, and they can listen and then nod their head. We find that makes the best shows.
I'm used to being on the other side. I'm used to conducting the conversation. So I feel as though I'm monopolizing and selfish.
Well, actually, now that we do have a super chat, which is perfectly apropos to this. Kawesa for 10,000 won. Some of us fans admit and apologize to Shannon Q that there are active attempts to super chat the best jokes to make her crack up on camera because she's such an addictive elf.
I love those. You don't need to apologize.
Yeah. What? Oh,
There's no need to apologize for trying to make me crack up on live streams. I think that that's amazing.
Okay. I don't know what that means.
Well, thank you for the super chat.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so that's an interesting thing that I think a lot of people wouldn't realize, like women who aren't on YouTube or men on YouTube or not, that there is a perception that can be very specific to a certain audience of women versus men on YouTube. And it's interesting because it might be something that is an attractiveness thing, like if men who find women attractive who are on YouTube, they would want to feel smarter than them, I guess. Is that, I don't know.
Potentially. I don't think that's necessarily, like, it's certainly not all men. Like, 'cause I have a huge component of my audience that are men that are utterly phenomenal. And I absolutely don't want to speak in generalities. However, I don't want to invalidate the fact that these are real experiences that I and other people like me have on a consistent basis. And I think that you can honor both.
Yeah.
But you can't help but attempt to figure out the motivations towards, like, when it comes to something like that, because people have visceral reactions to me. Just perhaps it's the same with men, but oh my goodness, people have visceral reactions to me. And I think it's inarguable that the manner in which they show their anger is very different than it would be potentially for a man, or at least it is different than the men that I speak to who engage in the same type of content creation that I do within the same realm. So, for example, if I signed up for Facebook, depends on how you look at it. I made either the massive mistake or the great decision to sign up for Facebook. It comes with Facebook Messenger, and Facebook Messenger is a different animal than Twitter Messenger. Immediately, because Twitter Messenger, I have everything pushed to the side, so I don't often check the non-friend DMs, right? Like, if I'm not following you, it goes to the side. On Facebook, I just accepted everybody, right, into the Facebook account. So anybody who you accept, and the only way they can see you is if you accept them. It doesn't go like they can't follow you without you accepting them, I guess. I don't know. I'm not good at Facebook. But they can send you a DM, right? So within days, maybe even hours of creating that. I got a couple thousand people as friends. And I just started, my inbox just started filling up with threats and pornography immediately. Immediately. It was unreal. It's not anything I could have anticipated, because I don't portray myself as a sexual object. At least I don't attempt to. I don't engage in sexual type conversations. Like, there's nothing that I do, I think, and I speak very frequently about my orientations, my sexuality, how I'm monogamous. People know who my boyfriend is. Like, they know that I'm with Poly G. Like, that's not a secret. It's not difficult to uncover. And if you follow me, that's relatively so you would know that this isn't something that's going to elicit a positive response from me. I'm not going to be like, wow, that's your penis. Oh my God. That's amazing. Can I please see more pictures of your penis? And that's how people were introducing themselves to me.
Yeah.
And it still happens to this day. Like, in Twitter, they just all filter into the DMs that I don't actually really get around to checking that often for that very reason, which also kind of gives me pause, because in the filtered DMs on Twitter, the ones that are people that follow me, but I don't follow, that I have like just a preponderance of messages that I don't take the time to go through, because several of them are generally people asking me on dates, looking for me to have a voice call with them, or sending me pictures of like selfies or pictures of their genitals. Like, that's a very real thing.
Well, I think that's I do want to. So here's the thing. I think for women, there is a lot of joking about that, and I think the reason is because you have to either joke or cry. I mean, this is the life you end up living, and so I think ends up happening is a lot of guys hear women saying, "Oh God, another dick pic of this or that," like, "Oh, it's funny," and then when guys either get married or really start to spend time with women who are having this happen, and they're like, "Wait, that's real. That really does happen," because guys aren't. This doesn't happen to guys. Guys aren't getting this kind of thing. So one of the things that you had said earlier that I thought was interesting was sort of the difference in perspectives. I do think guys, in general, unfortunately, are very dismissive of a lot of these problems, and they don't know until they get exposed, until they start to have friends who are having them, and then they say, "Wait, that really happens." And I say, "Yes, I get those pictures all the time." And I have friends who, like, on their Twitter account, it's just, all dick pics will be published. That slowed down the flow, but in some cases it kicked up the flow. So this isn't an easy problem to solve. But I think what happens is it, because guys don't have anything similar to that at all, it's very easy for them to just sort of dismiss it. And I don't think it's because they have bad intentions or they're bad people. It's because it doesn't seem fathomable, especially to a guy who would never do that. They're sort of sitting there going, "Wait, what? This can't be real." And so I think that is one reason why there is that huge disconnect. But I think that's why it's important to talk about these things, because that's a spectacular problem that, for the most part, every woman that I'm aware of, all my female friends, experience that. Every single one, without exception. All of them.
Yeah, and I guess maybe you can, Shannon, maybe you can speak to your difference in experience of just general being a female in the world and when you joined up into online content creating. Because I've experienced like a tiny bit of that from like dating apps or, Facebook, just from being a young female online. But I feel like your level of experiences is vastly different from mine and from most women that aren't in your field. Because I kind of piddle in this. I'm not full-time YouTubing, and I'm not,
Oh, no, they're mine.
I don't have a huge audience that knows me really. So you're in a very different camp than me in terms of people that have access to your image and what your content is.
So see, that's fun. Before I go on to address that, like, ICS is like literally exactly on the same plane, which I mean, I guess like because you have Atheist Edge and you have this, and we have Women of Deconversion. You're very visible in the scene. Like potentially, I have more subscribers on my channel, but I think that that's incidental. Like that is just an accident of fate, I think. And yeah, so I don't know. I just because I have the utmost respect for you, so I just don't want to see us on any sort of different level. Because that's not the case in my mind. It's an accident of fate that I just so happen to have more subscribers, and I couldn't explain it to you if I tried, and I don't know.
Yeah, right.
I don't know why I do.
Well,
But
thank you.
You're welcome. No need to thank me. It's just I think you're neat. You know that already, though.
Oh.
But see, it's very difficult for me to discern, because I try to be incredibly rational looking at things. And so it's difficult to me to determine how much of the misogyny that I receive, and I do receive it, like inarguably, like the way that people are coming at me with things like, listen, sweetie, maybe like I literally had somebody on my show, on my channel, ask me if I was going to be in the kitchen on a show about misogyny. So, like, I don't know if you saw that. John Richards from the Anti-Theism International Convention. We were discussing sexual assault allegations and how his conference was dealing with them. And at the end of the show, he asked me if I was going to be in the kitchen because he'd like to invite himself to my table. And I was like, how are you not self-aware enough to recognize that that's misogyny and a show that we're talking about misogyny, where you're ostensibly here to discuss how respectful you are to women, to defend yourself against allegations that you don't take women seriously, at the end of a show where a woman is your host, where you're a guest on her channel, just giving you the opportunity to discuss these things. You ask her if she's going to be in the kitchen at Christmas because you'd like to invite yourself to her table. Like, how do you not have the self-awareness? And when things like that happen, I ask myself, like, what's an appropriate response in that situation? So what I did there, and then I'll get back to the actual question, was I looked at him and I said, we just had an entire show about how people deal with misogyny. And you asked me at the end of it, as your host, if I was going to be in the kitchen. That's a solid choice. People can decide for themselves. But
and what was his title again? I mean, this wasn't just like some basic.
No, John Richards is one of the heads of. He runs the Anti-Theism International Conference, and he's one of the heads of whatever the organization is that Atheist Alliance International. Yeah,
I do know.
He's one of the heads of Atheist Alliance International.
And I know that I actually, and
they
I
have
know
a seat
I
at the
didn't
UN.
see that fully. Oh, you're kidding me!
What? Oh,
no,
interesting.
I'm not. Yeah, so like it's prevalent in the community. You can't deny it. However, as a woman, you somewhat have to ignore it in order to be able to earn your place. Like it's difficult. It's a difficult road to hoe, because you either you have to call it out without calling it out so hard that everybody just starts to relegate you to the background where you can't have any effect. So you need to be able to walk that line where you're calling it out and you are not afforded the opportunity to just viscerally react in a situation. You have to strategically respond to things that are misogynistic against you. You have to figure out the motivations, figure out the context, figure out what your best response is. You do not have the liberty to just simply say, you're being misogynistic, because so many people in the past have just viscerally reacted to trivial things, you're relegated to being just like them, you're cast aside, you're not considered. You have to carefully articulate your objection, be able to demonstrate why, and be more reasonable than is often justifiable. Like, you're
It should be
justified to be
necessary,
less
yeah.
reasonable, but you have to, if you're aligned with your goals, make those personal sacrifices in order to carry on. And it's also difficult to discern because some people aren't being purposefully misogynistic. That's just an intrinsic part of them that they don't even recognize, because it's just a tacit portion of how they were socialized, that they had never been, I don't want to use the word called on, but it had never been brought to the forefront of their attention that, hey, this has an effect on somebody else. And those people you can very easily reason with. So you have to kind of traverse a bit of a minefield where you have to gauge each individual interaction based on what this person's motivations are, what the overall context is, what type of message they're purporting to advocate for, whether or not you have aligned goals, if you should give them the benefit of the doubt, if this is something where they may be taking advantage of you. Could you conceivably see them acting otherwise if they had more information? All of these things have to enter into the mental calculus that you engage in prior to you opening your mouth in a moment. These are things that dudes don't have to think about as much, I don't think. Like, or at least not in that context.
Yeah. Well, in my view, you're correct. I tend to agree with you. I think each gender has different burdens in different societies. Guys do have some burdens that probably women don't, but in this particular case,
that's fair too.
No, the guys don't have it. The guys don't have to. And I think guys are afforded that. One of the statements I really hate is boys will be boys, because it dismisses behavior, and it sort of justifies bad behavior by saying, well, that's just who they are. I don't concur that that's who they are, and I don't concur that that's a healthy way to deal with problems. So I really actually quite despise that. But I think that kind of mentality allows for guys to. I could probably bungle an interview better than bungle it worse than, however you want to. I could be afforded more mistakes, I think, than probably most women on YouTube. And whereas I tend to broadcast live, that gives me more wiggle room. That makes it a little easier for me. I don't have to. That's my perception of it. Maybe it's confirmation bias, but you seem to be concording with that, and I would tend to agree with what you said. Yes, I don't think guys have to deal with it.
Yeah.
In the same, not.
And I
as
mean,
much.
I didn't have any barriers
some,
to entry though either. Like, I accidentally got 1,000 subscribers before I posted a video. So like, I'm a bad example of barriers to entry. Like, if you're looking at that as a metric, I am a garbage example, but I think that's incidental because I'm an anomaly. It makes no sense to me still to this day how I have as many subscribers as I do. I just see it as an anomaly. It could be like that. I've looked at it every which way from Sunday, to be perfectly honest with you, because I do not understand it myself, because I'm just some moron from Nova Scotia who wanted to maybe see some better quality conversations on YouTube.
Shannon,
thought that she'd throw herself in.
Quit bragging about how many subscribers you've got. I know 9-year-olds have more subscribers than you. I know 9-year-olds
yes, I know.
have more subscribers than you.
So many. You're not wrong.
I forgot this.
Significantly more.
40 some odd million, subscribers. 40 million subscribers for a 9-year-old. Oh God.
So
okay.
My 9-year-old's probably subscribed to that channel. He loves YouTube.
I apologize. I can't let a bad joke go. I can't.
Shannon, I would want you to recognize too that you do quite a lot for the community, and you do create content that is very high quality, conversations that are very essential. And so I wouldn't want you to discount that, because I think it's really amazing the goals that you have for the types of conversations that you facilitate, and the grace and poise that you do that with. So I think it's wonderful.
Oh, that means a lot to me. Thank you very much. I really appreciate
Hmm.
it. I don't think that I followed any molds really, so it's still weird to me because I don't even have any point of reference to be like, I'm gonna try to be like that channel. I'm just like, I'm gonna talk to people about things I want to hear talked about in the way that I would like to hear them
Hmm.
talked about, and talk about the things that I think are important in the way that I wish somebody would present them. And that's just that's what I do. And it's
Yeah.
incredibly self-serving. So I'm not good at accepting compliments at all, because I think that I'm exceptionally lucky, and it's just an anomaly that I am where I am.
Well,
So
and I do think that like people, especially in modern times, tend to appreciate authenticity, and if it's something that you would want to watch, if it's a conversation that you would want to have, um, then uh, then I think that that's usually the most successful thing. And I think there's a show on Netflix called Working Moms, and that's created by a woman who wrote a script that uh, was very true to her own experience as a mother.
mhm.
And so it's a show that just illustrates from an extremely honest place what her experience has been. And there are four main characters, four main women who are mothers in the same like infant class thing, and uh, and they have very different experiences and very different responses to motherhood, but they're all aspects of her own experience as an individual when she wrote them all. She did a TED talk about how that level of authenticity of her own experience is extremely successful. So I really, really love that show, and I love what it represents. But
Oh, that makes me want to go check out that show.
yeah, it's so good.
Very cool. What
It's
can
very
I hear
funny.
about is it fair for me? I don't know the format of the show enough to know if this is fair for me. Like, can you share like is there anything analogous that you see? Do you have any criticisms of how because this is just how I perceive things, right? So when you're talking about perception, there's never the context of the other person's perception. So I
Mm,
try to be careful, especially with attributing motivations, because I don't know what they could be. But do you have
hmm.
similar experiences, or do you see anything in my perception of my experiences that maybe I may have misattributed or have been unfair about?
Well, I mean, so I've definitely experienced the YouTube comment thing of people um, commenting much more on how I look than what I'm saying. And of
Yeah.
course, I get the opposite as well. I'm very highly praised for what I say and my perspective on my channels. So I wouldn't want to discount that. But
Yeah.
it is kind of disturbing some of the comments. I know that you guys did an entire segment of that at Faithless Forum the last year that was
Mhm.
about just reading out comments that different female YouTubers get, and
Yeah.
how yes, they can be very funny, but they can be very scary and very anger-inducing. So yeah, I've gotten those, but I also don't read most of them. I'm
Good.
not as
Good idea.
engaged as on like the comment side because I don't it's such a there's so much content being created that I don't always like sift through a lot of the comments. So I'm often not aware of what's being said about the channel by viewers, and so I think I stay quite protected. I'm also not on Twitter. I'm not on Instagram. I'm not on Snapchat. So I just do YouTube stuff, and I'm on Facebook, but it's like a personal page, and so I'll sometimes invite people that are in my audience, but I don't think I've ever gotten a viewer from the show give some sort of disturbing comments to me through my Facebook page. Um, so it stays, I kind of stay out of it. So I don't know. But
It's probably a smart way to be.
I think your experience, I think some of the experiences I've heard that you have had are just
Okay.
insane.
Yeah.
And I don't know
Like
if you would
what?
like to go into any of that.
I'll go into them.
Um,
That's fine. I'm open
but
book. Go.
like for example, I don't think my channel has uh like a PO box for people to send things to me, but I've heard some like horror stories of things being like done to your home,
My home?
or being sent to you.
No, nothing's crazy has ever been sent to me in my PO box.
Okay. Well,
No,
maybe
it
not a
wasn't
PO
me.
box, but there was some rumor that I heard, I guess, of like people leaving things
Well,
on your doorstep or something like that.
let's make something up. You know what? We need to boost ratings. What can we say?
No,
Oh,
I
dear.
mean,
never happened.
Okay,
Never
good.
happened.
Maybe that
oh God,
wasn't. I thought that
go
was.
with it.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's the format of the show is to just
Well,
make stuff up. So let's just run with it.
there
No,
are. Okay, well, that's good. I think
no,
it
it's
might have been a
everybody.
different. I thought that was something that someone
No.
said about you, though. I don't know.
Actually,
But
no, well, no. I think I remember something vaguely like that, but it wasn't Shannon. I'm trying to remember. It was a YouTube. I don't remember. I think I know what you're talking. I don't remember who either, and
okay.
we'll sort it out.
There there is
I think
a
you're onto
there
something. I just
there
don't
is a
remember.
female YouTuber that has gotten like jars of bodily fluids at her doorstep and things like
Oh
that.
God, ew, that's
Um,
awful. No,
Yeah.
my goodness,
yeah.
no, that's never happened to me. I did have
Yes.
somebody
Okay.
once send me a message um with a Google Map image of my local grocery store, telling me
Ooh,
that they know
Jesus.
that I go to this grocery store and they could narrow down where I lived because I had to go into one of these two grocery stores and they'd recognize me. So
Oh
that
Wow.
dear.
happened in real life. That really
I I,
happened.
I
Somebody,
I'm going to disagree with you, Courtney. I don't think that's weird. I think that's a little scary.
yeah.
That's that.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I find
that
that
Yeah.
I'm
I find that
familiar with your
disturbing.
area. I figured out based on listening to you that
Ooh.
you live in this area. These are your local grocery stores. You have to go to one of the two of them at some point in time. I know you'll be here, and I can narrow down where you live based on following you from the grocery store when you go there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so
Ugh.
that's the thing that
Yeah.
really happened. I don't know if that's
Yeah,
unique
that
to
would.
women though, because I know men who have had that threat, like Telltale, for example. He's had that threat too,
Maybe,
because
yeah.
I know. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I've
Well,
yeah,
and
I've had a
Telltale
Oh, no
has such
bodily
a.
fluids. Dear Jesus. God, thank God that
Yeah.
wasn't me. I wonder who that was. Tell me when you
I
find out
don't
who
know.
oh
that
God.
was. Because if it's
Okay.
somebody I
We
know, I would like to make sure that they're
Yeah.
okay. Like, or
Yeah.
even like anybody,
Yeah.
I'd like to make sure they're okay. That's awful.
I know.
Ugh.
It's insane. Yeah. So I
well,
don't
we just
know.
got
I
hit with
know a lot of.
a rather apropos. We got hit with a rather apropos super chat. Coessa for five
Okay.
won. So it would
Oh.
be inappropriate if fans request a bottle of Nick's bathwater. Yes, it would.
Oh my gosh.
Does that answer your
Yeah.
question, Shannon? Just saying.
It's so
Just saying.
weird. Yeah. Yeah, and and I'm sure that similar things have happened to like celebrities, actors, musicians, things, anybody who's in the public eye, um, will have crazy like fan stories or crazy viewer stories. But I don't know. I think there is, uh, by and large, more of a focus on image,
God, yeah.
for female content creators. So I don't know. Have you, I guess, is there something you can say about you hearing the level of difference that you've experienced, maybe from something another male creator mentioned or anything like that? Because I know you kind of stuck to
Yes, I
what
could give you an
someone's told you
example.
about their experience.
I could give you an example. It's actually fairly demonstrably because I'm a woman, unless I'm just specifically crap, but like, which could be the case. But there's a content creator who's a really great friend of mine. His name's Vice Rhino, and him and his wife are two of my closest real life. Like, I love them. I love Vice Rhino and Mrs. Rhino. I won't say their real names, but I love them. He has a channel. It's a relatively well-subscribed channel. I think he has like 50-some thousand subscribers. I don't know. I don't pay close enough attention. He has great content. And I've been on his channel a couple of times. What really frustrates him, and I don't really pay much attention to the comments, but what he's portrayed to me is that he's had multiple guests on his channel. The 2 or 3 times that he's had me on, once was a guest spot when he was going on vacation, when it was entirely a video that was just me. The other time was a video that I was in just briefly, just very, very, very briefly, to talk specifically about the LIBET experiments and action potentials and how you would know, Courtney. Action potentials, like the LIBET experiments are you're not consciously aware of an action you're going to take until after your brain's already essentially decided to take that action. They kind of proved that, and it has to do with free will determinations and things like that. But anyway, I discussed
love those experiments. They're so cool.
Yeah, they're really cool,
I love them
right?
so
Yeah.
much.
So I went on to discuss the science around that because it's in my background. It's so dark, it doesn't even look like I have a ponytail. But anyway, so I've been on his channel a few times, and he's had many, many, many other guests, but he noticed a difference when he had me on as a guest. Even if it was just temporarily, people had a really visceral reaction to me. Like it could be because I just suck. Maybe there's something about me that personally, like individually, that makes people just be like, rah! But immediately people were like, get her off of here. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Blah. Like there was like, and comments about how I looked and all of this stuff. Like, why don't you get her to shake her boobs in front of the screen? Like, yeah, whatever. Like, you think that if you get somebody with big boobs to talk about it, that people will listen? And like, he got to the point that he was actually upset because it was that different. And he reached out to me and he was like, I'm really sorry. Are you okay? And I'm like, oh, I don't look at them. Like, because he reads all of his comments and responds to them and stuff. And I'm like, oh, I can't read all the comments and respond to like that, because I would spend my day fighting with somebody about whether or not I even have a right to speak, because I would gravitate towards the comments that offended me the most. Just naturally, that's the thing that you're going to do. The ones that strike at you the hardest are the ones you're going to gravitate towards and want to rally against, more so than ones that are like, you're amazing. You're going to unfortunately, mentally, you're going to bypass the ones that are like, Shannon, you're doing such a good job. I read all of those and they make me feel good. Please keep leaving them. Don't stop leaving them. Please keep leaving them. They keep me going. But like, when it comes to interaction, like viscerally, you'll bypass a lot of those and you'll go to the one that's like, you're such a stupid bitch. What makes you think that you know anything about Jordan Peterson? Jordan Peterson has a PhD in psychology. You probably don't even have a degree. And I would respond like, yes, I do. I do have a degree in psychology. Like we study different things, but I have an understanding of the background information and I provided resources. The links are in the description. Is there one of the links that you have an issue with? I'm not even reading your links, you stupid bitch. Like that, like those type, like that's, oh yeah, like that's just a normal day, to the point that I just stopped even responding because they're looking to engage me because it's a power dynamic to them, right? They're looking for the opportunity to gain some power over me, and me even engaging in that conversation is allowing them to continue to fulfill the desire to have that power relationship, because they even if they aren't affecting me, I'm allowing them the opportunity to fetishize that they are, and I'm just not going to give anybody that. I'm just not, because I'm not going to feed that negative impulse in them. That's not good for them. It's not good for me. It's not good for anybody watching. But anyway, that's a good example. Like Vice Rhino, like, and holy shit, like when you're on, you do such a good job, but holy, like what is why? And I'm like, boobs. I have all the boobs.
So there's like, to me, like there's 3 different levels of disturbing comments that sometimes are more disturbing on the face of it to women than they would be to men on women's behalf. So
Okay.
first of all, there's the comments that I'll get on Atheist Edge that are just straight misogyny, but not directed at me particularly. They're just like, oh, well, women need to be subservient because of blah, blah, blah. And they'll quote Bible verses, and it's disturbing. And I'm the only female on the channel. So, I have to, it's kind of my turn to comment on it. So we'll do these response videos, to some of the comments that we get, and some of them are fine, but some of them can be really crazy. And I've gotten some really interesting comments like that. So that's like the less personal, general misogyny with the backing of the Holy Scripture. And then you have ones that are over the top, like violent and directed at you and insulting and being really aggressive. But then there's this other kind that seems to be like complimentary in a derogatory way.
You did so good for a girl, that sort of thing.
Yes, yeah. So there's it's like a
yeah.
So there's the backhanded compliment, but it's like men who, like, I got this comment a while back that was, she's not that hot, but I'd do her anyway. And like, it's not angry, it's not insulting per se. I mean, it is kind of insulting, but it's also like, it's something that might be considered to men to be a compliment. And that one's a little more obvious to not be a compliment, but like, there are ones that are just commenting on the way that you look in like a certain way, to where for you and I, like, we would just be like, oh, that's gross. But for men, they'd be like, oh, well, you can't take a joke, or like, oh, you can't take a compliment. And it's like, yeah, but it's not a compliment. And so it's really interesting, the difference in the categories. And I'm not saying that all men would respond that way either, but just that I've gotten comments, and when I respond to that, I've gotten men in the room being like, oh, well, that's not that bad, or like, oh, that's not actually supposed to be taken that way, or whatever. And it's just like, yeah, but
it's a difficult road to travel too, because I sometimes get comments. I mean, I can't lie. Like, I'd be lying if I said, when I get comments that are like, Shannon, you look so nice in this video, that I'm not like, thank you. Like, thank you. Like, that I like hearing that. Like, I put some effort in. Like, today, unfortunately, I did. But, thank you. I like hearing that. But by the same token, if I like hearing that, what right do I have if somebody makes a comment that is like, you don't necessarily look great today? Why am I measuring these and saying, this is an unacceptable comment, this is an acceptable comment? The only difference between the two, because they're both on my image and how I present myself, is that this one is favorable to me and this one makes me feel better about myself. So if I'm accepting this one, I have to kind of accept that sometimes this one's going to come, or I can't accept either. You know what I mean? So I struggle with that. Because I do, like, I like things that are favorable to me. Surprise! Like, when somebody says something nice about me, I like to hear it. But it's also difficult, because not all of the ones that are saying, Shannon, you look nice today, are honestly saying, hey, Shannon, like, you look nice today. Also, like, I really liked hearing what you say. I'm a longtime subscriber, or maybe I haven't commented. Some of them are meant because that's the only way they see me. They tune in just because they think I look nice, or to see what I'm looking like, to see what I'm like. Some of them want to see what I'm wearing and what I'm looking like, and see if they can, get into an argument with me and feel like they have some sort of power, or see if there's a way that they can position themselves, because maybe I have an intellect. Not that I'm saying I'm particularly intellectual. I'm mostly a moron, but I could threaten some people, maybe. So maybe I have an intellect that's potentially threatening to them, because they want to see women, especially because I triggered the incels so early on in my YouTube tenure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they'll come because they maybe are upset by their attraction to me, and don't like that they are like, there's so many different dynamics to take into account that I don't know if men necessarily have the same type of thing to consider when it comes to sexually explicit comments or comments that are specifically about appearance or are derogatory towards their appearance, or the preponderance of comments that are just generally about appearance, which is a thing, right? Like there's a huge preponderance of comments that are about how I look as opposed to what I'm saying. That's starting to taper a bit, which is lovely to see, amazing to see. But early on, it was just on measure, just, oh my God, you look so pretty, or, oh, you're such a dog. Why would anybody listen to you? And I'm like, well, what does it matter what I look like either way? Like what do you agree or disagree with about what I say? What do you value about what I say? Anyway, I just rambled on and on and on and on and on. I do that, sorry.
You're fun.
Welcome
I
to
do
the
too.
show. That's
But
my number one job
right.
on this show is to just ramble.
I know.
Trust
Mitch,
me.
we're talking.
all of us do
That's all I do.
Yeah. Well, I do think that there's an interesting balance, like that you have to strike as a female with content creating, also in the workplace. We've talked about this on Women of Deconversion, I think, that like in the workplace and especially online, there's a balance to strike between being so attractive that people think that you don't have anything of interest to say.
Right.
And in the workplace, being so attractive that like they're not going to take you seriously, versus being unattractive to where you'll be ignored or where they'll assume negative things about you, like you don't know what you're talking about. So it's really strange. Like you have to kind of balance, especially in the workplace, like what are you going to wear? Are you going to wear things that are really feminine or more masculine or something in between? And you have to strike this balance. And I remember being in male-dominated fields that were physical jobs, where I had to make a choice between, do I wear makeup every day or do I not? Are they going to take me seriously if I wear too much makeup, or are they going to think that I'm just really like annoying and dumb if I don't wear any makeup? And it's just like, it's a very different experience. And like if I'm used to wearing makeup and I don't, they're like, oh, you look tired, and it's just this very strange thing that I don't think men necessarily deal with in the workplace or online, that there's this balance you have to strike between being so attractive that people don't take you seriously or don't listen to you, and being so unattractive that the same thing happens.
Yeah, men are never. Sorry, go ahead.
I would imagine there's no way to win that one either, because where that line would be different for each guy. So the question is it my coworkers or my colleagues versus my bosses versus the people under me? And my guess is so you've already lost, I would assume, even when the question is, how do I what's the best balance to strike? But I don't think there's one. You're gonna lose somewhere, I would assume.
Yeah. I think people have such a social construction built around gender roles and how those archetypes form our perceptions of somebody's intellect, how somebody engages with society. And unfortunately, women, because we've been placed in a position where we augment our appearances in order to both satisfy ourselves. It's a great form of artistic expression, and also it's something that we can do to satisfy our own abilities to demonstrate ourselves in the light that we want. And I feel like that's something that men are robbed of, actually, to be fair, because of gender roles on the opposite side of the spectrum. Because we've been allowed that opportunity, whereas men have been robbed of it, but also expected to take advantage of that opportunity, whereas men who don't want to are seen as, like, because of that spectrum, we are assigned, should we take advantage of that opportunity that's afforded to us? Like currently I'm not wearing makeup and you are. Does that mean that you're attempting to portray a different image of who you are than I am? Now, no,
Yeah.
I don't think so. It just means I didn't have the opportunity to put on makeup. You had the opportunity to put on makeup. You chose to put on makeup. I didn't choose to put on makeup. What does it inform about either of us? How done up we are? Nothing at all. 0%. I'm not speaking in a different tone, in a different manner, in a different way than I would be if I had on eyelashes and my hair was done. Everything about what I'm saying is consistent, and everything about what you're saying is consistent. However, how the message is perceived has to do with the medium, and we're part of the medium that's delivering that message, and that's imbued with the characteristics of that social archetype. And that social archetype is so solidly conveyed that it's very, very difficult to break loose of it. So like you said, like if you even are too attractive on the spectrum, like if somebody perceives you as too attractive, or how you wish to convey yourself as too attractive or too sexy, then you innately just aren't going to be received as seriously, because people think just because you are or assume and that you're attempting to convey yourself as attractive or a sexual object, and thus that's the point of you. And that's not the point of you, because how you convey yourself into the world and how you want to be received isn't the point of you, isn't the crux of what you have to say, doesn't negate the value of anything that you have to say, nor does it inform anything about how you should be perceived. However, it's imbued with that artificially, and people take that for granted and assume it's the case on a consistent basis and argue for it. That's where you hear things like she deserved it, or if she wanted people to take her seriously, would she be wearing a shirt that low cut? No, because you know what that does? That assumes that her message is not as important as how she looks, or that those perceptions should be broken. Like, I should be able to portray myself in whatever manner I want and say the exact same words that I'm saying now, and that have them received in a similar manner. And it baffles me that people don't see it. And it's something that women have to think about significantly more than men do. I mean, potentially Nick could argue against me here. I'm open to it. I'm not hostile. So I could be wrong.
I think you're correct. I think men have different issues, but I don't think that that's, and I think honestly, you had said earlier, did anyone think that what you were saying was unfair or disagree with your characterization? I honestly, in a few cases, I thought you were being a little too charitable to guys. I don't want to throw my own gender under the bus, but I like. I mean, I've noticed one of the things that you said, for example, was okay. You have to be careful because in some cases it's not necessarily the guy's fault per se. He hasn't been exposed to a broader worldview. He's been raised in a very limited environment, and so it's not that it's necessarily a bad person. In some cases, it's a genuinely bad person. So I think that's a level of consideration and engagement that I think is very important. I think it's important both so that you don't end up causing harm in trying to because that means you have to modulate how you're going to engage. But I think it's important to being heard. I think it's important to do a lot of things. But in some cases, guys, there was that earlier comment, she's not that good looking, but I'd do her anyway. Comments like that, in my experience, I do think it's taken as a compliment, but not even they're not even trying to say it's a compliment. What it is, it's just she should be complimented that I think she's that she's worthy of that.
Right.
So it's a phenomenally ego-driven, and so I find that stuff very bothersome on a number of fronts. But bothersome may not be the right word. It's a little troubling, and I think it. No, I think I concur completely so far.
Yeah.
No, you know what? No, wait a minute. I gotta find something to fight. I'm going to fight with you about
Let's
something.
fight.
What kind of headphones are you? I mean, really, you're going to wear? You're going to come onto this show, and you're going to have headphones like that.
Or whatever these are.
You don't even know. Oh, Jesus,
you have
she
the
doesn't even
bot.
care enough to know. She doesn't. She comes on here. She doesn't even know. She just got it. She assumes their quality. Doesn't care
Paul
about
ordered
our
them for me.
audience, whether they can
I
hear.
assumed they worked, and then I plugged them into my Yeti, and they did. That's what I don't. I have no idea what the. Paul bought them for me. He knows more about this stuff than me. So your
there you go.
query is with Paul.
Actually, no, that's my second one with him, and that was the other one that I wanted to remind you because you brought him up. Your boyfriend needs to step. I worked on Star Wars. Yeah, we know. We've heard it. We know.
People keep asking him about it.
Of course, they keep asking about it. He worked on Star Wars. Are you kidding?
You're making it seem like he brings it up to puff his chest or something. He brings it up when
No,
it's
he doesn't.
relevant.
He's modest about it. He's modest about it. That's why everybody asks him.
I don't understand the criticism then.
If he were bragging.
Star Wars.
Oh,
He's
God.
modest. Your impersonation of him did not entail modesty. I'm just
It's true.
Oh, now I do bad impersonations. Is that what you're saying?
If that was supposed to be modesty, then yeah. That's a fair criticism, I think.
No.
Oh no. So I guess one more thing. I know we're kind of getting past the time, but
oh my gosh, it's almost.
But I am curious. I know. So I am curious though, like you and I, we did Women of Deconversion, and I think we talked all the time about how different that experience was from most of our time on YouTube engaging with other content creators, because it was all women, and the way that we engaged with each other and the way that we interviewed each other felt very different. And I wonder if you might speak to your experience with that, of how that is different for you with doing, interviews with women versus interviews with men. Because I mean, and again, I don't want us to speak in generalizations, but it is interesting, the kind of treatment from comments, but also treatment from other YouTubers.
So I, to be honest, have to be fair, I'm very, very lucky. I've found a community of content creators who don't make me feel like I'm a female content creator that they've allowed in. They make me feel like an equal on every conceivable level. Okay. So I'm very lucky that way. And it's weird that I should say that I'm lucky, right? But that's just not the case for me in the close group of people that I work with. Now, that's not the case broadly. There are people that I've approached, and I'm not going to call out, but there are people that I've approached that I've either made the choice not to work with or not pursue an interview with because they've disregarded me initially. Several of them, because if you're new to me, I don't always look like this. Sometimes I'm quite made up, and I look a little Instagram-y sometimes. Not currently, but sometimes I do. So I have a decent profile picture on my Twitter. It's all right. I look all right. And I've had people say that, like, when I'm reaching out for interviews, like relatively serious people, or at least people that purport to be relatively serious people, saying, do you really have any qualifications? And I'm like, oh yeah, absolutely. Like, I have a decent sized YouTube channel. Well, what do you do? I actually had, this comes up all the time. People, I've never done one of these, but I had somebody who's an apologist say, well, are you like a makeup tutorial channel? And I'm like, why do people keep assuming that I run a makeup tutorial channel?
Wait.
Why does
you just
that
said
keep
that happened
happening?
once, and now you just said it keeps happening. This has happened more than once.
Well, no, because it happens in the comment section of my videos all the time.
Okay.
All the time.
Wow.
No, this is just, I'm talking about in the specific context of me reaching out to somebody.
Yeah, somebody actually, like a host or potential guest.
Yeah. Potential guest, not a host. Potential guest. Yeah. You look like you run a makeup tutorial channel, I think was the actual comment. Like, they didn't say, do you run a makeup tutorial channel? It was a dismissive comment, essentially, to say, well, you look like you run a makeup tutorial channel because I'm a girl with a profile picture that I took some care on and put through some Instagram filters to make, myself look good in my profile picture. Sure, that's a fact. I did it. But you wouldn't just make an assumption about something like that based, like, why? Why would you immediately be that dismissive without even attempting to find out what I'm about? Like, you're just looking for an immediate reason to dismiss me, or so it seemed. So those are things that do happen. So I'm lucky. Unfortunately, I have to say that I'm lucky that I've found a community of people that don't ever make me feel like I'm a woman in the community. They make me feel like I'm just like the rest of them. When I'm interviewing people, it depends on the person. It entirely depends on the person, because so long as we're enthralled in the subject matter, and the person is respectable and interested in the dialogue, who either of us are, our gender is not relevant in the context of that dialogue, because we're enthralled in this subject matter. There have been people who I've had conversations with, specifically conversations. Generally, it's an apologist. Usually, generally, it's an apologist who will attempt to put me in my place. Like Darth did that to me, or will bring up subjects that they think are going to elicit something from me in the conversation because I'm a whammons, right? Like, we'll talk about, rape and stuff because I want to get you emotionally invested in this conversation so that I can get you riled up potentially, because I know that that's something that whammons are invested in. So like, this is me going for the undercut, right? So you have to train yourself to, and it's unfortunate, you have to train yourself, especially if you're going to be doing it in this realm, to not react like a normal person, which can sometimes be frustrating to, I guess, other women watching, because they're like, why aren't you tearing this person to pieces for what they just said to you? But you have to realize that the reason that they're saying something like that to you is because they are trying to elicit that emotional reaction from you, so that they can reference your emotional reaction to justify their predilections towards saying women are emotional. So you're just feeding into that because they're attempting to take you off course. And that's a sign that you probably are in the right trajectory in the conversation. So you can't give that to them, because they're attempting to elicit that response from you as an out in that conversation by utilizing your sensibilities against you. So you have to constantly be aware of those weaponizations, and you not only have to fight against your inclinations to defend yourself and defend your gender and defend and tell people that they're bullshit, but also walk the line between making sure that you can continue on down the path that they're attempting to take you off of, while simultaneously dealing with an audience of people who are saying, why didn't you tell them to go fuck themselves? Like, well, because I was trying to do this, and I knew that their goal was to get me to a point that I told them to go fuck themselves so that I couldn't achieve my goal. They were attempting me to it's a pain in the butt, because I don't know. I just rambled again.
You're fun. I've often been characterized as extremely patient for that reason. You have to be very strategic in how you deal with that. And I've dealt with that as a public speaker, as a atheist group leader. So that happens a lot more for me in person, because I deal with believers a little bit more in person than I do on YouTube as much. But yeah, you have to be extremely patient for many reasons, but especially when I've had comments from other content creators, like having a discussion about feminism and them assuming what my answer will be, assuming what my position will be, and being pleasantly surprised at how logical and rational I turn out to be. Like, oh, and they get so surprised, and I'm just like, sorry. I mean,
feminism means you're crazy and you hate men, Courtney. God,
I know,
you're doing feminism wrong.
I know.
I don't know what your problem is. If I had known that Courtney did feminism wrong, I never would have come here. You're supposed to just scream in people's faces.
Oh my
I'm
gosh,
so
I know. You're supposed
disappointed
to
right
hate men,
now.
right? Yeah. So
This
that's
was a
the thing, is
mistake.
that it's just really, it's so interesting, this level of assumption. And I do find that like way more from men than from women, this assumption of where my head is at, this assumption of
Mhm.
who I am and what I have to say and what my position will be. And I've had people try to finish my sentences for me and be
Mm,
incorrect. And I'm just like, no, that's not where I was going with that. And no, that's not my position. Um, and it's really, really interesting. And that's not even, again, it's not even on topics about religion where somebody, is very dealing with something very personal and they can get a little haywire when they're flustered. Like this is about all kinds of things. Um, and it's just very strange.
yeah. It's also difficult too when you get to a point like where women start to see you as representing them. That becomes
Mm,
incredibly difficult too, because if you represent yourself in a way that they're not comfortable with, or maybe don't understand your motivations for, they can become
mm,
incredibly, or anybody, this isn't just women, if anybody sees you as representing them in a dialogue, in a video, in an interaction on social media, wherever they see you, it starts to become like you can't represent everybody in exactly the finite way that they're hoping that you will represent them. One, you
right.
don't know. You don't know exactly what their parasocial relationship to you is. And
Mm-hmm.
two, you're not like, you're just representing themselves to whatever degree they relate to you. That's amazing. And that's
Mm,
something that I want to cultivate honestly and openly. But
mm-hmm.
I'm not other people. So when people start to see me as representing, like it
Mm,
becomes hard because you start to it's incumbent upon you to make sure that when you're speaking, you're not just speaking for yourself, and that's very, very difficult
yeah.
to do because there's so many variables to consider in your head before you open your mouth about how it affects such a multitude of people.
Mm,
Like that becomes a weight too, not just to women but to everybody. But yeah, so that's I,
right.
I went off the rails there for a second, but I just
You're
recognized
fine.
that in the
No, that's
conversation.
that's
I do have
relevant.
to go
I mean,
relatively soon though. It's only
yeah.
20 minutes until
Mm-hmm.
my bedtime. Yeah, I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think all of us do that naturally with atheism. We do that. We try to represent atheism.
Mhm.
And and I don't think we would own how it's represented across the board because I think, atheism and some versions of like anti-theism, things like that are not a positive thing, not a positive image. And I think we are constantly combating the image that's out there about
I
all
agree.
of those topics. And so I think, I think that's absolutely true of representing women as a whole. And we do that
Mhm.
every day. We do that in the workplace. We do that online. We do that, um, as parents, as whatever. It's um, very much ingrained in our everyday. And I think that might be universal, but I think women are very aware of how they are representing each other, how they are representing um, us in the face of certain like misogynistic situations or comments or whatever.
And
It's
there's not a lot
interesting.
of us out there either, right? Like
Yeah.
there's very, very few female atheist YouTubers that are
Mm,
there's more starting, which is fucking phenomenal. Like just
mm,
amazing. One of my favorite things is seeing there's so many new female atheist YouTubers, especially just like coming up. Like there's Narvardia, there's Skeptic She, there's Unholy Sarah, like there's you, there's Ex Cult Baby, there's all of these new um Guts the Gibbon, like I could like the list could go on. Like a lot of the groundswell of
mm,
atheist YouTubers that are starting to come up on Measure, they're
mm,
women. because they're
Mm.
starting to see themselves represented more. Like they're seeing
Yeah.
people like you and people like me and people like Rachel, and they're going,
Mm-hmm.
oh shit, why aren't I throwing my voice in? And they're starting to. So the dynamic of the culture is changing, and there are people that are interested in more productive dialogues and less of bullshit drama dialogues, and more creating community and figuring out how we can carry on good conversations and finding truth and finding common ground and addressing harm and like talking about like it's wonderful. Not saying that men don't do that, because there's a cultivation in the community that's happening, and I think started with a lot of male YouTubers as well, including like my friend Drew from Genetically Modified Skeptic, and Thomas and Paul and Vice Rhino and Godless Cranium, and like the list goes on. Like there's
Murphy's
this
a good like
Eric, absolutely, exactly, yeah. And like there's too many people to list. Like there's this huge groundswell of people that are coming up that it's like, oh, okay, the dynamic of this sphere is changing. The people that are like joining together, like Jimmy, like, and you know, like starting to like hold hands and say, okay, like we're gonna like work on a community and collaborate together, are starting to really like understand and have important dialogues about what is important, what should be important, who you want to represent, how you want to represent them. And it's not just about how are we going to get more views, it's about how are we going to make things different. And I'm privy to those conversations, and the people that don't want to be part of those conversations, I'm like, enjoy your ride. Wish you luck. But and women are coming up into that. And because of those people, and because they're starting to cultivate that different type of dynamic, where previously it was just a misogyny fest that was filled with toxicity, and what got views is what you did. And if what got views was sticking a banana up your ass and screaming into a camera, then that's what you did. And it's not what people want anymore. People are taking their responsibilities more important. More like they're understanding that they're imbued with a serious component of liability for the things that they say and the things that they propagate on these sort of mediums. And a lot of women are involved in that happening. I like to think that I'm one of them. So it's not all bad. Like lots of women are showing up too, right? So like, and I mean, it's because I have such a good makeup tutorial channel. It's really good. I'm not saying that they're bad either. For the record, I watch some of them. But you know what I mean.
I like the ones run by men. Those are great.
Oh yeah, I'm a Jeffree Star fan. I have his palette. Not gonna
lie. Yeah. Well,
Anyway.
So I think we can wrap it up. I do. I don't know if you know, Mama Dr. Jones is one of my favorite like female YouTube, and that's not atheism. It's but it is like information and science, and
she was just on the line,
and I love it.
Show. She's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, I love her. So yeah, there's so many like really amazing female YouTubers in general, like just outside of the atheist community, that are creating amazing content, and hopefully that trend of there being such a difference in treatment is going to subside a little bit, just because it won't be seen as a novelty to see women on camera saying things of consequence with or without makeup. I think that's very important.
Right. And barriers need to be kicked down all across the board, because it's not just about male and female YouTubers, it's about trans YouTubers, LGBT YouTubers, asexual YouTubers, like non-binary YouTubers. Like all of that is starting to open up. Like the fences are being kicked down. People are saying, we want to hear from all of y'all. Everybody's voice matters. Let's elevate everybody. And like Thomas says, it's a rising tide raises all boats, right? If so, the more you see things from a community perspective, and the more you understand that we have common goals, and the more that you unify those perspectives, the better chance that the movement has. And the more you learn about all these diverse communities and this background of experience, and the more these people want to step forward, and the more you diversify your voice, the better chance that you have to be heard by a wider variety of people. And all of these things are beneficial. So elevating all these voices and talking about why people maybe have felt as though they should hold back, or may have been held back previously and shouldn't feel that way anymore, is something like that. Hope is something to talk about. The fact that that dynamic is changing is something that's important, because I don't want people to hear a conversation like this and say, oh, I'm a woman, I don't want to enter into this sphere, because that sucks, because it's different. We all have our own unique things to deal with. Some of it does suck, and it's the thing that you should be aware of so that you can enter with open eyes. However, the more of us that do it, the more the culture shifts, if that's something that you feel as though you're open to be able to do. And the people who are willing to do that will help kick open the doors so that we can change the dynamic of the culture. And now I'll shut up for real.
and diversity enriches the entire movement, like you said. I think that's something that's so important, of the diversity of voices, the diversity of experience and perspectives is what makes the movement better. So that's really good. Well, anything to add over there, Nick?
We did have a couple of comments that I wanted to read, and I will. There's a comment from me, and I just, Shannon, you come here, you're a guest, and you had to dox me on my banana video. And I really wish you hadn't mentioned that.
Oh, no.
I didn't realize. I'm sorry. That's my bad.
That was a long time ago, and I'm trying to get past it. And that really wasn't.
To be fair, TJ has me blocked on Twitter, so I would have never known that you were the same person. He's had me blocked for like 3 years. Apparently, I'm problematic.
That's insane.
Everybody has me blocked on Twitter. Would recommend. Block me on Twitter. It's a good choice. Choice.
Shoot. Okay, well, hold on. Let me go fix that. Okay.
I'm on many a block list.
I can fix that.
I am trouble.
Well, so
no.
I've been a little sick recently, and I got a lot of really nice messages. And one of the things I had said was, they really did help. And I think it's seen as a sign of weakness sometimes. Sort of actually, enjoying positive messages. I think it's great. And I enjoy positive messages, and I get the messages even when I'm not sick, when I'm doing fine. And I get, people coming in and saying positive things. So you, Shannon, are not alone. This is what our live chat has been saying from Ishtag, who's, I think it's Ish.
Oh, Ish.
Yep.
Oh, I love Ish. It's from my channel.
Reassure Shannon that for every douchebag, there's 10 men who appreciate her for her intellectual contribution, but she'll never hear from them. Also, from Ish, that you had handled that great. The Ish is referring to the comment when you had
John
on.
Ricketts?
Yes. She handled that great. She maintained composure and laughed at his statements while asking him to clarify Tony Designs. I am not attracted to women, and I am a huge Shannon fan because she is smart, funny, humble to the point of self-deprecation, but she doesn't take any shit.
I don't.
Also, always a great model, compassionate to everyone, a great model for how to communicate. We have a vicious live chat.
Because you're going to make me cry.
From Trevor. Wish Nick was considerate enough to put on makeup. Okay.
Is that Trevor Lund?
Oh, no.
Yes, that's Trevor Lund. I don't know who he is, but we are banning him as we speak. Troll, obviously.
Oh.
No, he's great. Trevor being sorry to Nick.
When Darth Dawkins asks Shannon, "What's your worldview?" she answers, "I like cheesecake." And
I was so mad at that point, though. To be fair, I didn't care what the fuck he said. I was done talking to him. No matter what question he asked me, I was going to give him a ridiculous bullshit answer because I didn't care anymore because he wasn't listening to me. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead. That was my
And
answer,
the
though. I
last,
said I licked cheesecake.
yeah,
Actually.
no, I'm sure that was very good. This wasn't. It was clearly somebody who does. We have a fine cultured audience. They know what they're talking about.
Mm.
And then the final one, Lenora, Shannon, you are awesome.
Oh,
Shannon, where can people
thanks.
find you? And what are you doing? What are you doing now? What are you working on? What are people going to see on your channel the next couple of weeks? And where can people find you?
Let's see. I had a couple days ago. I had Matt Delahunty on, and the day or two before that, I had Hamet Meta on, and a couple of days before that, I had Zod on, Prophet Zod. So if you go on my channel, the last 3 shows, Matt Delahunty was a call-in show. He and I were taking calls on the line. Hamet Meta and I talked about churches having drive-in services during the COVID outbreak, and Prophet Azad and I talked about morality. I'm having Antibot on to talk about MLMs on Thursday. That's a relatively new channel, and she's great. And I'm having Eric Hernandez on to talk about philosophy of mind on Saturday. And I think that's as far ahead of as I have planned, although Paul sent me a William Lane Craig video today that pissed me off. So I may be doing a video on Paul's channel about that William Lane Craig video after he's done talking to, I shouldn't say who he's talking to. That was almost a mistake. He's talking to somebody tomorrow. Yeah, so I may be doing a
Is it
video on
George
Paul's
Lucas?
channel soon.
It's George Lucas. You see, this is
No,
what I'm
it's
talking
not
about.
George
No,
Lucas.
oh, no, it's not. Okay, it's
Not
not
George.
George Lucas, Nick. Okay, yeah,
Not
good.
George Lucas. No, it's Mark Hamill, actually. Who
Oh.
apparently he looks like. He gets that comment all the time on his channel. He really looks like George. I think he looks like
All
Paul.
right.
But
Well,
yeah, my channel's
unfortunately,
called Shannon Q.
oh yeah.
Don't follow me on Twitter. It's a mistake.
Unfortunately, your channel is not in the description because we had to recreate the show on the fly. It will be in the description. Hopefully, by the time people are seeing this, her channel will be in the description. Her channel and Discord have been dropped several times in the live stream. They are in the so even if they're not in the description, you can find them in the comments area, and they will be in the description. Shannon, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, Courtney. Thank you. And thank you for covering while I've been out. Thank you all for being here, and we look forward to seeing you guys on Stitch. And if you do know Shannon, and you want to hit her up and tell her to be on Stitch, because she would have a good time with Mikey. He's infinitely more fun than we are, and I like to think we're a pretty good time. So, anyways, thank you all for coming, and we will see you guys next week.
Sorry, I never shut up.